What was the most petty thing an adult did to you when you were younger? I broke 2 fingers on my dominant hand in 9th grade and had a splint on them so I couldn't write. I had a test at school and the teacher made me write with my left hand, then marked my answers wrong because she couldn't read them. I was at an Easter egg hunt when I was around 6. It was in a big park area with lots of rocks. I saw a little chocolate egg foil glisten and ran over to pick it up. As I reached my hand out to pick it up, a man trod on my hand to stop me getting it. Then he called his kid over to find it. At 16 years old, I had a job at a gas station after school. Did all the grunt work. Sweeping cigarettes in the parking lot, emptying trash bins, etc. I'm taking the trash out one day and a grown-ass man in his 40s comes up to me and says something along the lines of, "I make more money in a week than you do in a whole year." And all I could think at the time was, well yeah. I sure hope you do. I'm in high school. Such a petty thing to say to a kid just trying to make a little bit of money after school. I have horrible handwriting. I have forever. No amount of intervention or practice has helped. When I was in 5th grade, my social studies teacher seemed to take a lot of pleasure in constantly reminding me of how awful my handwriting was. We used to have to bring out notebooks up for her to check our homework. I dreaded this so damn much. She would hold up my notebook so the whole class could laugh at my handwriting. I'm grown now. That was a long time ago. But I still hate to have hand write anything that other people will see. I got in trouble in 6th grade for reading during homeroom. Homeroom was like a random 30 minutes period to work on homework, but I always did my homework the night before so I would just quietly read. For some reason my homeroom teacher hated it. One day she just yelled at me for always reading in her class and told me to do my homework. I told her all of my homework was done. She told me to prove it, so I showed her all of my completed homework. Then she confiscated my book and sent me to the principal's office for being disrespectful. I'm still salty about it. In elementary school I used to talk to the lunch lady every day, and then the one day I didn't say hi. She came to my lunch table and told me I was fake, phony, and a few other things and stopped speaking to me. I still don't understand what her problem was. Had a teacher in kindergarten threaten to expel me because I was sick and didn't show up the day before. She put me on the spot in front of the whole class, telling me not to lie and that she'd call the principal. I cried in front of the whole class, not knowing what to do. Apparently she wanted to win some attendance award and thought confronting a child was a good idea. Like brah, I was F-King 5. Still salty on how she got away with it. One of my uncles was in a years-long fight with my mom. To stir trouble, anytime he greeted my sister and I, he would tell my sister how beautiful and wonderful she is and to me just say, "Oh, you're here too," and then promptly ignore me the rest of the night. I used to adore him up to that point, so this ended up in me being extremely hurt and crying to my mom for hours about how I'm ugly and not special. He got his petty vengeance on my mother and crushed my self-esteem. Till today I don't forgive him for it. I got a 0 on a history assignment in 4th grade because I improperly cited a source for one of the pictures I used, meaning it was plagiarism. The citation I used was from the educational website I got the picture from, and it was to the format she wanted. I simply forgot a period at the end. Fuck you, Ms. Easton. This was at least 2 decades ago and I'm just remembering it. When I was probably around 8 or so, I was at a baseball game with my family. Naturally I was hoping I'd be able to get a ball, and one of the players saw me in the stands, looked directly at me and threw a ball to me. Then some guy, probably college-aged, proceeded to reach over my shoulder and snatch the ball before it got to me. I turn around and he and all his friends are laughing and celebrating. Almost 20 years later I'm still a bit salty about it. I wrote a letter to my grandma that died on Christmas Day and put it in her casket at her funeral. My aunt took it out and gave it back to me and told me I couldn't do that. I was 6. Edit. Thank you all for the kind comments and awards. And for everyone who told their stories too. Let's always remember, blood doesn't make a family. We make our own with the people we care about and care about us. Preschool me wasn't sure if shaking hands should come after or before getting awarded a prize on stage. Adult snatched my prize out of reach to hall full of guffawing adults. Preschool me burst out in tears and was led off stage. Parent scolded me for making her look bad. Edit. My form teacher passed the prize to parent later when we were seated. Prize giver was a local celebrity. I was a chubby kid. So when I was 12 I decided I would go for runs around the neighborhood at dusk so people wouldn't stare at the fat kids so much. On the second or third run, some guy walking his dog unleashes it and sicks it on me for shits and giggles. And calls it back just before it gets to me. I stopped going for runs after that. Edit, for everyone asking. This was quite a while ago and I did eventually get back into running a few years later. Even ran a half marathon a while back. I had to walk home from the field when we lost a playoff game. I did a chore that my father had asked me to do. My mom got home and commented on how nicely the chore was done. My father took credit for it in front of me, so I fired back saying that I was the one who had done it. He then yelled at me and called me a traitor. I was feeling sick one day in grade 3 or 4 and the substitute teacher wouldn't let me go to the nurse's office because I didn't look sick enough. I had strep throat. My swimming teacher removed my inflatable armbands while swimming in a deep part of the pool because I was not paying enough attention out of excitement. In Cub Scouts, we were doing the Pinewood Derby. I worked really hard on my car. My dad helped. Of course. I had already won the first 3 rounds. And before the final round, one of the dads of the other kids picked up my car to hand it to me. It slipped out of his hand and broke the wheels when it hit the floor. I'm convinced it was not an accident. And he was sabotaging my car so his kid would win. This was over 30 years ago. And I'm still salty about it. Grounded me for leaving a hanger on the dryer. Then extended it for reading while grounded. Then further for sleeping when told I can't read. Shit still pisses me off years later. In grade 4, a teacher gave us a few questions before lunch break and expected us to answer each of them correctly right after the break was over. A classmate couldn't get a few answers correct so the teacher made him walk to each bench and get a slap from each student present in the class. Thinking about the incident now, I feel like going back in time and beat the shit of that horrible teacher. My swimming teacher promised me a candy bar if I jumped off the board when I couldn't swim, and when I did they said they forgot. But I saw them eating one in the lounge. I was 5 and I was betrayed. Another thing that swim teacher did instead of teach me to swim was to try and teach the group how to keep their eyes open underwater and see. We all had goggles and had to take them off to do this. Also, I didn't learn to swim there. I ended up learning at a hotel on vacation when my sister taught me like a year later. The trailer park manager for the neighborhood I grew up in. When I was 7 or so, a bunch of friends and I went to one of their houses to play outside. After about 20 minutes of being out there, the manager pulled up in her car and told us we couldn't play there because that was someone's yard. Well, the parents came out and told her that, yes, we were all allowed to play in their yard. And that it was fine. That wasn't enough for her because she told us all to go home anyway. And got our parents to take us home when we wouldn't leave.